welcome to the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement podcast. My name is Tom Foxley and I help functional athletes gain a champ's mindset. Now, there has been a slight break in podcasts, and for that I can only apologize. However, I've been hit by a pretty nasty kind of flu type thing, and also the Mindset RX coaching certification has been taking up a lot of time in the best way possible. Like, man, it's incredible, all the coaches that are coming on board, all the future coaches that are coming on board. If you are interested in this, in becoming a Mindset RX coach, or just learning about mindset coaching and how you can apply it to your current coaching, then shoot me an email, mindsetrxd.com, and I'll reply to you. It'll be fun, and we can have a nice, honest, frank discussion about what's happened and the way to go forwards with you. Anyway, today's episode, quite frankly, it's coming from what initially sounds like a kind of aggressive, kind of confrontational way of thinking, but quite frankly, it's also something that aggravates me. To be honest, it really aggravates me because I see it everywhere, and it's something that I've spoken about before, and that's absolutely fine. But I've spoken about it before, and it's fine because you guys all need to hear it. And this is something that I was just scrolling through Instagram, actually, being very unproductive for once, but I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across like 3 or 4 of these videos shared by big names in the CrossFit scene. And they also big names, but not in the CrossFit scene. And some of them were their own, some of them were just like shared things. And it's these videos of this moving music in the background and some nice words over the top. And when you look at them honestly and frankly, that's all they are. They are nice words with some moving music underneath them. Maybe let's cut to the chase as well. They probably mean a lot. They probably they show this person's journey very well. They characterize a lot of good things, and at the heart of them, they are 100% true. But let's be honest with ourselves for just a minute. What good do they actually do? What do they do? Do they actually help you progress? And has anyone ever watched one of these motivational videos and changed their life around because of it? I'd honestly love to know. That's a question to you guys. If you are the person sitting there who said, yeah, I watched one of these videos, and because of that video, and solely because of that video, I changed my life around, then I'd love to hear from you, because I've asked thousands of athletes now whether that has happened to them, and no one has said yes. Or if they have said yes, there's been a host of other contributing factors and things that have changed in their life, and that's brought about that change. I get it. It makes you feel great when you watch it. It gives you that surge. And if you are, I don't know, feeling like you can't quite be asked to get to the gym today, then maybe you turn up to the gym that once. But what long-lasting change does it make? How does it change the fundamental beliefs that you have in your heart and then translate them into actions? And quite frankly, it just doesn't. It does not change it. So what do you do instead? Let's actually look at a constructive way to move forward instead of me just whinging and nagging about it, because quite frankly, it's too easy to do, and I could fill up hours of podcasting whinging about the fact that these just don't work. They do not work. But anyway, there are 4 things that you must do to achieve your CrossFit dreams. The first one, we are incredible at imagining the worst possible scenario to happen to us. Human beings, by default, are hardwired to be negative. It's a useful survival strategy. We are designed to be negative. It's very, very helpful in millennia of evolution. But quite frankly, when it comes to becoming a CrossFit athlete, you need to be thinking about the best case scenario and the worst case scenario to balance out your perspective. There's no point exclusively following what could go wrong. There's no point exclusively following what could go right, like the best case scenario. But in the middle lies perspective, and most of us spend so much time at the negative side of that spectrum that we need to bring it up. We need to bring it into the middle, and that starts by imagining what it's like to achieve the best possible scenario. Okay, and this for you could be standing on top of the CrossFit Games, standing on top of the podium at the CrossFit Games, sorry. Or it could be holding your newborn and thinking, yes, I'm in a really good position to become a great father or mother or whatever you are to that child. Like, that's the perspective, and it starts by putting yourself in that emotional point, because quite frankly we spend so much time imagining the worst possible outcome that we need to start putting ourselves in the best possible outcome. When we start to do this, our actions begin to align, and it's not because of anything magical, it's not because of anything mystical, it's because we begin to self-direct. We're not self-deceiving, we're self-directing by looking into the future, by imagining the best possible outcome. And that's what we do. We consistently take steps forwards. So, number one, imagine the best possible outcome of your future. This takes two routes. Number one, we can write it down. If you respond very well to the written word, you can write that down and write it into something really, really beautiful. It works for some people. It works for myself. And it works for a few athletes I train, but they're probably in the 20%. What always works for 100%, or I hesitate to say 100% of people, for the 100% of people that I have trained and got results for. And by the way, the only people I don't get results for are the people who don't do this work. But the people who always do well with this, or the way to always do it, is to sit down, spend 5 minutes imagining what that outcome really looks like to you. What's the best way to or what's the best possible scenario? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? Are there people around you? And just put this in front of you, and this is going to, instead of having to push you towards your goals or self-propel, you're going to feel pulled towards your goals. When you're consistently putting that in front of you, you just get pulled towards your goals. That's where we want to be. So number one, imagine the best possible version of your future. Point number two, again, we find so much time to be negative, and we find it so easy for our language to slip into, oh yeah, but this didn't go right, and this didn't go right, and this didn't happen, and then I felt lazy, and we count the scars by the thousands. But chalking up our wins is something that we very rarely do. So something very beneficial to do at the end of a day is to begin to count your wins. And I use the format of an AMWAP, and corny those may sound, it works. So as many wins as possible. You write down everything that you did that day that took you closer towards who you want to be, towards that imagined outcome that we had just a minute ago. This is a very important point to make. This is not a gratitude practice. This is not sitting there in a kind of a wistful way thinking, oh, I'm grateful for the roof over my head, and I'm grateful for the fact that I've got food, and I'm grateful for my job and my partner, because when does that actually work? When the effects rub off after maybe 2 nights, 3 nights of that, maybe a week if you're good, and it feels false and hopeless, at least when I've done it. And again, I open up the question, who here does a gratitude practice and loves it every single day and it always makes them feel great? It's very rare that I find someone who does. So what we need to do is begin to say, what did I do today that took me closer towards our goals? And again, this is not self-deceiving. The idea is not to ignore what went wrong. The idea is to self-direct, to acknowledge the things that you're doing well. So subconsciously you go, aha, that's one of the things that I should do more of. And you kind of give yourself a motivational or a subconscious pat on the back because of it. So that's number 2. Count your wins on a regular basis every single night before you go to bed. I can't tell you how powerful this is, especially if you're someone who feels a bit negative about the situation on the majority of occasions. The third step, we live our lives on a form of autopilot. We find it very easy to let the days slide by. And who's had this feeling where an hour seems to last like a lifetime, but a week goes past like a blink of an eye? And this is because we do not get introspective. We don't spend time being present with our thoughts. And we don't learn the language behind our thoughts so we can go, this is a sign of this belief. This is something that could be holding back. I need to pay attention to this. So the third step is to learn our language. And I do this in a very specific way with athletes. Every morning, get up and record what you're thinking. It's that simple. And I know I've been through this before, but bringing this to the front of your mind is what's going to advance or bring to the surface. Imagine you've got a deep pool of water and all your thoughts are quite subconscious. On the surface, if you look at it, everything's calm, everything's good, but below it could be turbulent, and those thoughts we need to allow them to rise up. Quite often we press them down, we push them away from us, and because of that we hide from them and they take a deeper hold. We need to bring them to the surface so we can begin to say, oh God, I'm thinking this. This is actually in my mind. This is something that I'm telling myself. And it can be a scary thing to do on a regular basis, because quite frankly, some shit comes up. Or you sit there and nothing comes up and you think, oh, this is boring. This is frustrating. What's the fucking point? There's no point. However, when you start to do this, you start to learn why you begin to self-sabotage. You begin to learn why you don't have any belief in yourself. And you begin to learn why, no matter how hard you try, you just cannot achieve the goals that you want to. So get introspective. Learn your language on a regular basis. And the fourth piece is a result of me looking around and seeing everyone just achieving or not achieving based on blind luck. They train when they want to train, they eat when they want to eat, and it works for a good amount of time until you are a good athlete. Like a comprehensive, like you can kind of do most movements, you're one of the better athletes in the box, and it gets you to that point, but it will never get you beyond. And if you're spinning your wheels, this is the best way to get past it. It's by refusing to follow luck and beginning to follow a systems-based approach. So every day I have a system that dictates I take my supplements at a certain time, I train at a certain time, I do my mobility at a certain time, I hydrate at certain times. And whilst this may seem boring to begin with, and let's not hide from the truth, it can be boring. It can be something that's not great fun to, okay, it's 11 o'clock, so I need to drink half a litre of water. But what it does is it takes the processing power out of your head. So you don't need to expend conscious energy and conscious thought on what should I do right now? What should I do right now? What should I do right now? Because it's already made up for you. Like your mind is made up and it's ready to go. So following a system-based approach through all of training, and I do this for all areas of my life as well, because frankly it works, but by following a systems-based approach, begin to track the behavior instead of the outcome. And quite often we're so busy tracking the outcome that we don't perform consistent behaviors. And that is the beauty of a system-based approach, that if you're tracking the behavior, solely tracking the behavior, then the success comes as just a byproduct of it. It just happens because you're doing the work and that's all you're focusing on. Just do the work, do the work, do the work, instead of am I there yet? Am I there yet? Why am I still here? And going through that whole cycle. Anyway, those are the 4 steps to achieving your CrossFit dreams. Number 1, begin to imagine a better future. 2, count your wins. 3, get introspective and learn your language. 4, follow a systems-based approach. And if you do that, I guarantee there's very little reason that you will not achieve exactly what you dream of achieving. And that, folks, is the end of I enjoyed this episode. I enjoyed recording it, quite frankly, because I haven't done one of these in a while, and it's probably a good chance for me to say, if you have any aspiration to becoming a Mindset RX coach, if you would love to help people change their lives, even if you're listening to this thinking, well, it could work for me, it might not work for me, what's up for grabs, essentially, shoot me a message and we can have a nice, honest conversation about it, which is so tom@mindsetrx.com, and we see what you can do. And also, if you enjoyed this podcast, please share it. That sounded very begging. Please share it. It means the world to me when people reach out to me saying that an episode's like touched them or helped them, and yeah, it's a wonderful thing to be able to do. So if you have any questions as well, feel free to shoot them over to tom@mindsetrx.com. Leave a 5-star review, of course, on iTunes. Only 5-star reviews. I won't take anything less. And on that note, you shall hear from me soon for what will be another episode of the Mindset RX series of the Alpha Movement podcast. Oh, and before I go, don't forget to follow me on social media too, because I'm constantly putting out, and a lot more consistently putting out content that will help you achieve whatever you dream of achieving. So you can find me on Instagram, which is probably the best place, which is @TomFoxley, or you can find me on Facebook, which is facebook.com/tom.foxley, or you can check out the website. And I occasionally update the website, which you can find at mindsetrx.com. And I shall speak to you soon.